चक्षुषन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखा अन्वितंश्च। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशातारिणे। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा 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 हरे हरे। Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Okay, so last time we completed till verse number 39, I think, right? Okay, so last class we saw how Krishna moved from Karam Kand to Karam Yoga, right? He was trying to raise Arjuna's consciousness from just gain and loss, and that is karamka. He refuted his argument of sinful reaction, what will he get, loss of enjoyment as well as sinful reaction, by this karam kanda section, because he was talking about gain and loss of enjoyment. So Krishna answered that in by karam kand, that is loss and gain. And now he's trying to raise him from Karam Kand to Karam Yoga. That's what we saw in the last class. And we also talked about, two types of duties, conditional duties and constitutional duties. Conditional duties are the duties according to this body that are prescribed by scriptures according to Varnashrama Dharma. And constitutional duties, they are on the spiritual plane, the duty of the soul for the supreme. And then we talked about Karam Yoga. What is Karam Yoga? So person is attached to the work, but he's detached from the fruit. And there are two types of Karam Yogas, Sakam Karam Yoga and Nishkam Karam Yoga. So Sakam, he is detached from a part of the fruit. But Nishkam Karam Yoga, he's totally detached from the fruit of the activity. And Bhakti Yoga, it's like one is detached from the work as well as the fruit. And we saw verse number 39. It's a transitional verse, where Krishna is just talking about, he has to give up this Karam Kand thing and learn to work without fruitive results, O Partha, and then you can free yourself from the bondage of work. And Prabhupada has given an elaborate purport. We saw how Prabhupada talked about Sankhya philosophy and atheistic Sankhya and theistic Sankhya. And then Prabhupada talked about the Buddhi Yoga, and like how, Buddhi Yoga, it has two meanings, Nishkam Karam Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. And as we discussed mainly in chapter 2 and 3, Buddhi Yoga is used for Nishkam Karam Yoga, and in the middle section of Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Yoga, it will be used for Bhakti Yoga. But yeah, at some places in this chapter also, it will be used for Bhakti Yoga. So what is basically Buddhi Yoga? Buddhi means intelligence, right? So Krishna is, trying to tell Arjuna that use your intelligence. I mean, through Arjuna, he's conveying this message to us that we should use our intelligence to achieve that which is higher and permanent, and not waste our time in Karam Kanda and, all this temporary fulfillment of our desires and temporary enjoyments. So engage in something higher, and then you can get rid of reactions also, and you will achieve the permanent source of happiness. So that is the buddhi. So at some places it is used for Nishkam Karam Yoga, that you can perform your prescribed duties but be detached from the result. And somewhere it's like, devotional activities, perform devotional activities, and obviously you are detached from the result, and that is Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so today we will start with verse number 40. नेहाभिक्रमा नाशो अस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पम अपि अस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्. Who would want to read?
Yes, Mataji, I'm reading.
Okay, Mataji.
In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution in the little advancement on the path. On this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Purpose: activity in Krishna consciousness or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning can be lost at any stage. Any work begun on the material plane has to be completed. Otherwise, the whole attempt becomes a failure. But any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect, even though not finished. The performer of such work is therefore not at a loss, even if his work in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%, whereas the material activity without a 100% success, there is no profit. Ajamila performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end of the end was 100% by the grace of the Lord. There is a nice verse in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 1, Canto 1, verse 5:17. It will be difficult for me to read. Okay,
You
Mataji,
can
I will
read
try.
only read the English translation, Mataji. That's
Okay. If someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness, then falls down on account of not completing his work, what loss is there on his part? And what can one gain if one performs his material activities perfectly? Or as the Christians say, what what profiteth what profiteth a man if he gain the whole world yet suffers the loss of his eternal soul? Material activities and their results end with the body, but work in Krishna consciousness carries in person again to Krishna consciousness even after the loss of the body. At least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being, either in the family of a great cultured Brahmana or in a rich aristocratic family that will give one a further chance for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So the verse, this current verse number 40 and 41, they are talking about characteristics of Bhakti Yoga. What's the difference between materialistic activities and spiritualistic activities? What are the benefits of performing Bhakti Yoga? So this is the unique quality of Bhakti Yoga, or work done in Krishna consciousness, which Krishna is telling here, that there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. This is such a special and unique quality of Bhakti Yoga. So if we see word to word meaning na iha, in this yoga there is abhikarma, in endeavoring, nasha, loss, there is no loss, asti, there is no loss, pratyavaya, diminution, vidyate, that exists. So swalpam, even a little, dharmasya, occupation, like religious or Krishna conscious activity done, trayate mahatu bhayat, that can release us from the greatest type of danger. So Srila Prabhupada is beautifully explaining in the purport the difference between materialistic and Krishna conscious activities. So what happens on the material platform? Someone is said to be successful only if he completes the work. Example, we can say constructing a building. If someone just leaves the building half done, if it is not completed, then there is no success in his endeavor. Unless and until the building or the work one has undertaken, he completes it, he is not considered to be successful. But that's not the case with Krishna conscious or the transcendental activities. Whatever work, to whatever extent one has done, it will have an eternal benefit. One continues from the point he leaves. Even if in this life we live at some percentage, in the next life we will continue from the next percentage. So nothing is lost. Even if we chant the Hare Krishna mantra once, if we honor prasadam, we bow down before the deities, we offer a lamp, flower, tulsi, whatever spiritual activity we do, it will have eternal benefit. It's not that, we are unsuccessful, we couldn't complete our bhakti, we couldn't, become perfect devotees. No, nothing like that. Okay. But if one does PhD in this life, what will happen then? In his next life, will that be of any use? No, it will be zero. He'll have to start all over again. From nursery class, he'll have to start. So this is the specific benefit of bhakti, that one continues from the point he left in this life and he advances spiritually. An example given here is of Ajamila. He was a Brahmana boy and he performed spiritual activities, and that came to his use when he fell away from the spiritual path. How did it help him? He named his son Narayan, and he happened to call him when he had to leave the body, and that helped him, gave him a second chance. So the occupational or the materialistic duties, they will end with this life, even if they are performed very sincerely, but there is no devotion added to that, then there is no use of it. They will end with this life. But on the other hand, spiritual activities, they will continue with us. This Mahato Bhayat, last paragraph, Prabhupada is telling, what is this Mahato Bhayat? What is the biggest danger, the greatest fear for us? The greatest fear is getting the body of an animal, falling down to animal species. That is the greatest fear, Mahato Bhayat. So we will not fall down to animal species. At least we will get birth in human form. We can get birth in an aristocratic family so that there are no material anxieties and spirituality can be practiced properly, or in the family of Vaishnavas, the devotees. So whatever little we are doing now, it will not go waste. So this is the activity. This is where we have to put all our endeavor and sincerity. Other thing is just going to be zero. Without adding Krishna, one to all that, everything is zero. Okay, so next verse, again, this verse also is talking about the same thing, characteristic of Bhakti Yoga. व्यवसाय आत्मिका बुद्धिर एकः कुरु नंदन बहु शाखाः अनन्तश्च बुद्धयो अव्यवसायिनाम्.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Translation. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Purport. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. Vyavasayatmika intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 22.62 states, faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family, traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from the past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane. For they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on the knowledge. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sam Mahatma Sudurlabha. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches. So by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone. namely self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna, and one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasadan nagati kutopi dhyayanstu vamstasya yashastri sandhyam vande guru Shri Charanaravindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on the perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically but practically. When there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities, one who is not firmly fixed in mind is derived by the various types of fruitive acts. Prabhuji, can you move up, Prabhuji, a little? Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So these are important verses of this section and this chapter 2. So Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi. What does it mean? A strong faith, firm conviction, one-pointed attention. What is that strong faith? That by Krishna consciousness, one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life. We have firm conviction, firm faith in the process of Krishna consciousness. We can get highest perfection by performing this. One-pointed attention, that only by Krishna, it has to be one-pointed. Only by performing Krishna bhakti, I will achieve the highest perfection of life. That is love of Godhead. And Prabhupada has given the analogy of watering of the root of the tree. So how if by watering the root, the entire tree gets nourished. It can grow properly. We don't have to water the branches, the twigs, the leaves separately. So similarly, by satisfying and serving the Supreme Lord, everyone gets satisfied. Another analogy Prabhupada uses at various places is feeding the stomach. All parts of the body are nourished. No need to So this is just to convince us that how, especially when we are new in Krishna consciousness or before coming to Krishna consciousness, most of us were engaged in demigod worship. And when we, come to Krishna consciousness, we keep fearing that, oh no, they may get angry with us. We have given up worshipping Ganesha or Shiva, this and that. So there's no need to fear all that. If I don't worship demigods, they will get angry. No, nothing like that. There are 33 crore devtas. And is it humanly possible to serve and please them all? No. So Prabhupada is very well explaining that Krishna is the root. Just water him, just serve and satisfy him. Everybody will be satisfied and happy. It's better and it's easier to serve and satisfy Krishna. No need of any other worship. So this conviction, this faith we need to have, that only by worshipping Krishna, I will get the highest perfection. I should not keep getting deviated. Maybe I used to do this, now I'm not doing it, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm not getting this, I should do a little bit of that, little bit of this. No. One-pointed attention. Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi. Only Krishna is everything for me. And how do we get this type of conviction, this type of faith? By serving and satisfying the spiritual master. Spiritual master guides us. We can progress on this path by the mercy of spiritual master. And how do we accept his mercy? By following his instructions. Prabhupada has mentioned how important spiritual master is for us a bona fide spiritual master for our progress in Krishna consciousness. This verse written by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, morning we recited, Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado, Yasya aprasadat na gati kutopi. Only by his mercy we can get Krishna. If he doesn't shower his mercy, then we cannot get it. Dhyayan stuvam stasya yashastri sandhyam. We should bow down, we should offer our obeisances to our spiritual master 3 times a day. 3 sandhyam. Morning, then noon time, that's the middle of the day when the sun is right on the top, and then evening time, the sunset time. Okay, morning it's sunrise time. So just by bowing down before him, by serving him, by following his instructions, by pleasing him, by doing so, only we can get the mercy of spiritual master. Our faith can grow stronger and stronger, and we can advance in Krishna consciousness. And you know, this verse, it has got a historical significance for all of us in ISKCON. You know how when Srila Prabhupada read the commentary to this verse by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he got great conviction, great determination to fulfill the instructions of his spiritual master. And he took it as life and soul. And at the age of 70, he set out to fulfill that instruction. He said that this is my life-sustaining medicine, for I cannot give up the sadhana and the sadhya. What is sadhana? To serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to remember and glorify him as instructed by my guru. So he was like, that is everything for me. That is my duty. Most desirable object, and nothing else is, my duty. He was like, only following my spiritual master's instruction to serve and glorify Krishna in the Western countries is everything for me. That is my life-sustaining medicine. Without that, I can't live only. That great faith he developed by, understanding this verse from Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, and is that for Western world. So these are very important verses, and they help us to develop more conviction and faith in this process and in serving our spiritual master, our acharyas. Okay. And also in the previous verse, what we saw, that if we fall down, there is no loss. No, even if one falls down while performing the spiritual activity, there is no loss or diminution. But we have to take it seriously. We have to do everything, our devotional service, very sincerely. We don't have to take it easy that, oh, we have read this verse now, and even if I fall, there is no loss. No, I've done a little bit, now let me fall. I can enjoy the material world again for some time. There is no loss anyways. I will restart from the point I left. No, we have to be very serious. We have to, first of all, why shall I fall? I don't have to fall. When I've understood the seriousness of this process, the seriousness of this human form of life, and how Kali Yuga is progressing, how serious the situation is getting, we don't have to fall. But accidentally, if I fall, then there is no loss. Okay? So please understand that properly. We have to do our chanting, following the principles, everything we have to do very attentively, very sincerely. And even while doing so, by chance or accidentally, if we fall, then there is no loss. From our side, there should not be any, effort or any stone left unturned in performing our devotional service. We don't have to take it easy. Okay. So moving on to verse number 42 and 43. So here Krishna is again minimizing the Karam Kanda. So Karam Kanda is so low, Arjuna. He's again trying to convince him. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschita vedavada rata partha nanyad astiti vadinaha कामात्मानः स्वर्गपरा जन्म कर्म फल प्रदाम क्रिया विशेषा बहुलाम भोगेश्वर्य गतिम प्रति. Who would read? Vijay Lakshmi Mataji? Yeah.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Translation. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth.
being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this purport. People in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to fruitive activities recommended in the Karma Kanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets, especially the Jyotistoma sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness. As fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions, unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama Somam Amrita Abhuma and Akshayayam Havai Chatur Masya Yajinaha Sukritam Bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4th month penances become eligible to drink the Soma Rasa beverage to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have Soma Rasa to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratifications. Such persons have no faith in liberation from the material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Kanana in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women and having a profuse supply of Soma Rasa wine. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material temporary happiness as lords of the material world. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay, so as I said, Krishna is showing how futile, how useless Karam Kanda is. Karam Kanda is not so important. Why? Because it's performed by the less intelligent people. Not intelligent people perform this. Vedavata Who are Vedavata They study the Vedas, but they don't understand the real purpose of the Vedas. They think that the purpose is Karam Kanda. And their goal is to elevate themselves to higher planets and get more of material sense gratification. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada is speaking about Karam Kanda and its results. So what happens then? These people, they get Bhoga and Aishwarya by performing these activities. What is Bhoga? Sense enjoyment. And Aishwarya is opulence. But will that help them? No. They get more and more trapped. Higher planets, more of this, more enjoyment, more opulence. That's it. So Krishna is just showing him that Karma Kanda is not to be performed by intelligent men. Now, in the next verse, Krishna is talking about what is the result of getting Bhoga and Aishwarya. If you perform Karam Kanda, you will get Bhoga and Aishwarya, but then what will be the result of that? Verse number 44. भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्तानां तया अपरतः चेतसां व्यवसाय आत्मिका बुद्धि समाधौ न विद्यते. Barnali Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence are those who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport: Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti says, Samayag Adhyatesmin Atma Tattva Yathatmayam. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in Samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So if one is attached to these two things, Bhoga and Aishwarya, then what will happen? The fixed determination to practice devotional service, Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi Samadhau Na Vidyate, that will not take place. Fixed determination to practice devotional service, that will not take place. Now we have example of Nal Kuvera and Manigriva also, the sons of Kuvera, how they were attached to these two things, sense enjoyment and opulence, and they offended Narad Muni. Indra also so many times did that. Why? Because they were too attached to material opulence and sense gratification. They didn't have any fixed determination for devotional service. So they could easily commit offenses because the mind is not fixed. Mind is very much distracted. So here Krishna says, you get these by Karam Kanda, but they are obstacles on the path of spiritual progress. Okay. So when the mind is fixed for understanding the self, then it is said to be in Samadhi. But you can't fix the mind on the self because you are too attached to these two things, Bhoga and Aishwarya. Only if you give that up, then only Samadhau Vidyate Hoga. Otherwise, Samadhau Na Vidyate. Okay. So in verse number 45 now, Krishna tells again, Arjuna to rise above all this. What is he saying? Traguniya Vishya Veda Nistra Gunyo Bhava Arjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Shema Atmavan. Rama Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Translation. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for a gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with the fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning and there is a Brahma Jignasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas. As the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata, the Upanishad mark the beginning of the transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth, and by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding the gain and the loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the God and the goodwill of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So what is Krishna telling? That Arjuna, raise yourself above the three modes. Become transcendental to these three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Nistra Gunyo Bhava Arjuna. Just rise yourself above that. As far as Vedas are concerned, they talk about various subjects, but a major portion talks about fruitive benefits, fruitive activities. So in the first paragraph, Srila Prabhupada writes, that all material activities involve actions and reactions in the three moods of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. So how we did that example of a medicine covered up with the sweet. So they are just used to gradually elevate people to the higher platform. But if we go down in the paragraph, when the activities for sense gratification, namely the karam kanda, are finished, attachment to the material world, and that is finished, when one understands that all the material enjoyments are cause of bondage, then what happens? He rises to the transcendental platform by following Upanishads and the other aspects, the other sections of Vedas. Otherwise, people just get stuck only to this part. That's what is happening. Nobody rise above that Karam Kanda section. So only when we realize, when we use our buddhi, intelligence, that what are we doing, how futile this all is, we are wasting so much energy and time, and especially this human form of life, for attaining something that is so temporary. And it's so-called happiness, not even real happiness. So then we go to the next section of the Vedas, Brahma Jigyasa. We start inquiring about the supreme transcendence, something that is spiritual, out of this material world. So Krishna is advising him to rise above all these moods. Otherwise, you will be bound by the reaction. Okay, verse number 46. Now, to explain this point, how Karam Kanda is very low, and by performing Buddhi Yoga, one can achieve the ultimate purpose. Krishna is speaking verse number 46. We'll move to verse number 46. Manish Prabhu, can we scroll down to verse number 46? Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'll read it from the book. Yavan artha udapane sarvatah samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya viganatah.
Yes, Mataji, I'm reading from the book.
Yes, Mataji, please. Thank you.
All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Purport. The rituals and sacrifices mentioned in the Karma Kanda division of Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. And the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 15 shloka. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. The relationship of living entities with Krishna is also mentioned in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita 15:7. The living entities are parts and parcels of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness is by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, verse number 30, chapter 33, verse number 7, as follows: Aho bata swapacho gariyan jad jivagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste jujubu sansur arya Brahmanuchur namagyayanti yete. O my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name, although born in a low family like that of a Chandala dog eater, is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kinds of penances and sacrifices according to Vedic ritual and studied Vedic literatures many times after taking his birth. His bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. One of the one of so one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only, and must not without being attached to the rituals only, and must not desire to be elevated to the heavenly kingdoms for a better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for the common man in this age to follow all the rules and regulations of Vedic rituals, nor is it possible to study all of the Vedantas and the Upanishad thoroughly. It requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resources to execute the purposes of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The best purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, the deliverer of the fallen souls. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentalist instead of studying Vedanta philosophy. The Lord replied in his that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool, and thus asked him to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is the last word in Vedic wisdom, and the author and the knower of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna, and the highest Vedantist is the great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of Lord. That is the ultimate purpose in all the Vedic mysticism. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So to explain the point that how one should come to ultimate purpose of the Vedas and not be attached to the fruitive aspect of Vedas, Krishna gives this analogy in verse number 46. What is the analogy? Udapane, that is the well of water. Okay, and then is Samplutodake, that is a great reservoir of water. So whatever purpose a small well can perform, that can easily be performed by the great reservoir, at once be performed by the great reservoir, right? So in a village, there are different wells for different purposes. There is a well for drinking water, there's a well for washing clothes, washing vessels, or for animals. And so for different purposes, they have different wells. But if there is a river flowing, then all the purposes can be served at one place. We have seen people taking bath also there, and washing clothes, and animals drinking water. So if the reservoir is bigger, especially river flowing water, all the purposes can be performed at one place. So similarly, there are different sections of Vedas. Karam Kanda section, Jnana Kanda, Upasana Kanda, and people are attached to those for different purposes, like small wells for different purposes. But if one knows the ultimate purpose of the Vedas, then there is no need to be caught up with those other sections. And what is the ultimate purpose of the Vedas? Verse number 15.15, Prabhupada is telling in the purport, Bhagavad Gita, Vedascha sarver aham eva vedyo. The purpose of all the Vedas is to know Krishna. So if one comes to that point of knowing Krishna, understanding Krishna, then there is no need for him to be attached or be entangled in the other sections of Vedas. So here Srila Prabhupada is explaining that one must be intelligent enough to know the purpose of the Vedas without just being attached to the rituals. We just understand about some rituals from the Vedas and just go on performing that like foolish. Be intelligent. What Vedas are trying to imply. If we can directly go to the highest, and everything else will be covered up then. Why we have to just stick to those things? Even following or performing these rituals, that is not easy these days. No qualified brahmanas are there to chant the mantras properly. There are, it requires some good amount of money also, and pure grains, pure ghee, etc. It's not easy to find all that. This is for Karam Kanda. What to speak of Gyan Kanda, where one has to read Upanishads and Vedas and all the scriptures in Sanskrit. Hardly we can do that. That all is difficult for the modern age. So how Prabhupada is telling in the second paragraph, therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on the basis of the Shastras, he has given us this easy process for the ultimate purpose of all the scriptures. Ultimate purpose is to understand Krishna. And what is the process given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, if one comes to the point of understanding Krishna and practicing devotional service, then there is no need to be caught up in other aspects of Vedas. This is what Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna. And we are so fortunate that by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we have got the ultimate goal of the Vedas. And we need not go back and think about what's there in Karam Kand, Gyan Kand, Upasana Kand, and all other sections of Vedas. So Krishna is telling Arjuna to be not caught in Karam Kand and rise to the transcendental platform. Okay, moving on to verse number 47. So now what happens is, so far Krishna has been talking about various subject matters. Like first he talked about science of the soul, to refute his argument of compassion. Then about Karam Kand, to refute his argument for loss of enjoyment and to some extent sinful reaction. And now he talked about Nishkam Karam Yoga, and he mentioned the characteristics of Bhakti Yoga also in 40 and 41 verse. So therefore Arjuna could get confused, and he may ask, what am I supposed to do out of all this? So that's why this verse is spoken by Krishna now, and it's a very important verse of Bhagavad Gita, entire Bhagavad Gita, and it's known by most of the people, and it's quoted for different reasons by different walks of people. It's misused also at many places, so it's very important to understand this verse properly. The verse is, कर्मणि एवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भुर मा ते संगस्त्व कर्मणि.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Mataji, please.
Translation. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of actions. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Purport. There are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties are activities enjoyed in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority, and inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus is the enjoyer or sufferer of the results of such actions. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into three subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work performed as an obligation in terms of the spiritual injunctions without desire for results is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results becomes the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So Krishna is speaking a very important siddhanta here, and this siddhant is being repeated by him till 18th chapter again and again in various ways. And this siddhant is Nishkam Karma Yoga. Karmani eva adhikaraste. Eva means only. Your only adhikar, your only